Hello, and welcome back to Lifestyle Focus, the series where we go through the perks in each of the CK3 lifestyle trees, and I explain them in more detail. Today we're going to be looking at the Marshall tree. If you enjoy the video, please consider liking and or subscribing, and feel free to leave a comment. I shall try to respond to any that are left. So, starting with the focuses over here, there is strategy, authority, and chivalry. Strategy, like all of the other first focuses for all of the lifestyles, just gives you a flat +3 buff to whichever skill the lifestyle tree corresponds with. This one I find is more useful than most of the other ones because a +3 in Marshall can help a lot when dealing with duels and other combat related issues. Authority focus is great if you want to crack down on your position within your kingdom and ensure that you don't have too many strong people rise up against you. Gives you a +1 to Marshall, just buffing that up slightly. +20% to your dread gain, which means that your dread will increase 20% faster, meaning you can get much easier intimidate and terrify your vassals and other members of your kingdom who otherwise might contest your position as ruler. It also gives you +0.3 control growth in your owned counties. These are only the ones you own, nowhere else. When you have higher growth, you get higher taxes. So this is great if you have a lot of counties you have low control because you've just taken them in a war and you want to increase it. Then you have chivalry focus, giving you a +3 to prowess. This is your own personal skill in battle, whether it's leading an army or being in a duel. It increases your likelihood of winning duels and increases your power when fighting in a battle. So this is great if you're wanting to personally lead wars, and if you have a high prowess already, this really does bump it up even more. It gives you a +10 to your attraction, meaning that anybody you try and seduce or romance, whether they be within your kingdom or in another kingdom, they will be +10 more likely to agree because you are seen more attractive to them. It will give them a +10 modifier for that. This is only useful, however, when you're about 65 as a male and below about 50 as a woman. Anything higher than that, and attraction does no longer come into play. We also get a +5 to advantage. This is your damage modifier in battle, and having a +5 to advantage just gives you a higher flat damage modifier in every battle you fight, personally. These are only the battles you command, though. You also, all three of them, give you a 25 martial experience a month, same as all the other lifestyles, to just give you skill points within that tree. Here, firstly, at the strategist tree. The strategist tree focuses firstly on organising your army and your army's effectiveness in battle as an overall. It starts with the Bellum Justum perk. This gives you a flat -50% to any casus belli cost, whether it be religious or costing prestige. This is an incredibly useful perk to pick up if you plan to fight any wars, because it halves the cost of any kind of war you go to, which when you're paying 1200, 1500 prestige for a war, it'll bump it down to 700-800 instead, which is a huge discount to get. Then you have Parthian Tactics. Parthian Tactics is a huge buff to any cavalry you may have. So it increases their toughness and their pursuit. So toughness is how strong they are in battle, toughness is their tankiness in battle, whilst pursuit is their effectiveness at running down enemy troops once you have won the battle, so how many you kill when they run away. And this gives a 30% and 20% respectively to all cavalry units, whether it be light, heavy, camel, elephant, or archer cavalry. And so any cavalry you have, if you have a cavalry men-at-arms unit, this will give them a huge buff, especially to surviving and to running down enemy men. Envelopment gives you a +25% men-at-arms counter efficiency. This means that if your men-at-arms counter the enemy's men-at-arms, which I will explain in another video, but essentially certain men-at-arms will directly counter other men-at-arms and give you a huge advantage in combat, and this gives you a +25% bonus to any counters you may have. So if you have a lot of men-at-arms and you're fighting somebody with men-at-arms that you directly counter, you'll beat them even easier, and this can be the difference between losing with a smaller force and winning with a smaller force. Then we have Organised March. Now this gives you a flat 15% movement speed, making it much easier to chase down enemy armies that may be running away from you when you're invading or when they're within your territory. And it gives you a +5 to heavy, spearman, archer, and skirmisher screen. Screen is a combined score calculated during the pursuit phase if you lose a battle, and the higher the screen, the less men you're going to lose when the enemy is pursuing you down. And so having a higher screen on your infantry and your archers means you will lose less of them if the enemy win a battle. Hit and run is another great one to have. Firstly, it gives you a minus 25% to all retreat losses, so this is when you're run down, or the amount of men that you just lose at the end of a battle, and when you run away to recoup, that will be 25% smaller, so you will end up having a bigger army more consistently, even when you retreat. Also gives a 15% damage and toughness buff to heavy infantry, 30% toughness to spearmen, 30% damage to archers, and 20% damage and 10% toughness to skirmishers. All of these are great buffs to any men-at-arms you have, and if you have even one of these in your army, it is great to grant them this extra buff, which gives them a huge advantage over the enemy's men. Then we have Engineered for Destruction. This gives you a 25% naval speed buff, so any naval invasions you do, if you're chasing someone down fleeing at sea, or if you want to raid somebody, this makes it 25% faster to get there and to get out of there as well, so it's great if you plan to do any kind of major naval combat. It's a great one to pick up if you're going to raid anybody by crossing the seas. Also gives your siege weapons a plus 40% effectiveness, and this is excellent because it means if you have a unit of manacles or a unit of onagers and you go and besiege a city, they will be 40% more effective at not only breaking down the walls, also decreasing the time it takes for the siege to end and thus taking the city faster. Next up is Living Off the Land. This gives you a 25% raid speed and 200% supply capacity. So the 25% raid speed is nice if you raid. It means that you'll be doing all your raiding 25% faster. So you can collect gold faster, you can bring it back to yourself and go out again, rather than spending an extra 25% time raiding and building up the gold in the province you're raiding. But the real reason this perk's good is the 200% supply capacity is excellent. Normally, an army has a supply capacity of about 100, and it goes up depending on the size of the army, and this gives it a 200% buff, so your army can carry 200% more supplies. This means it can last a lot longer in enemy territory if it's gathered those supplies before it invades, meaning you can spend more time taking out cities and defeating armies, which makes it a lot easier to conquer these massive nations which require a lot of besieging of small settlements to increase your war score. Then at the bottom of this tree is the Sapper's perk, and this also gives you a big buff to your siege progress. This means that for every heavy infantry, spearman, archer or skirmisher unit you have in your army, they will buff your progress by plus 0.1 for each unit. This means that you can have huge increases to your siege progress bonus, depending on how many men-at-arms your raised army has. It will culminate in the Strategist perk, giving you a plus 1 to diplomacy and plus 3 to martial, a plus 25% to enemy fatal casualties, so that means when you're commanding an army, if you defeat the enemy and you pursue them down, they will take 25% more casualties, making it a lot easier to kill off large amounts of men. Also removes the advantage penalty that you get for crossing rivers and straits, which gives you a nice bonus if you happen to be fighting on any of those territories. Next up is the Overseer tree, and this gives bonuses to both your own dread gain and also defense. The first perk is Serve the Crown, giving you a plus 15 natural dread, so this increases your base dread by plus 15, so you will always have that natural dread there, and it makes it much easier to get to higher levels of dread. You also get plus 0.3 control growth a month, which when combined with the authority focus means any county you own will be getting a plus 0.6 bonus a month of control, which is great for quickly building up control in a lot of provinces at once, especially if they're not too low on it. Then you have a man's home, and a man's home gives you a plus 5 defender advantage, and this isn't just for you, this is for all your armies. If you are defending in a territory you control, you will get a plus 5 to advantage in that battle, increasing your damage and offsetting maybe some of the perks that the enemy has. Then you have Enduring Hardships. This gives you a plus 1 to fort level, which is for anything that you personally own, and this means that you are able to withstand sieging for longer because the enemy needs better siege equipment or more siege equipment to take down your walls and to get into your city. Also, enemy occupations do not lower control. This is when an enemy maybe besieges a settlement and takes it, but they haven't won the war. Ordinarily, this would lower control in the surrounding provinces and the province they've inhabited, but removes that negative effect, making it much easier to withstand invasions and wars because you will no longer be losing control every time you're invaded. Then you have Pest Conscription. Excellent perk, minus 15% army gold maintenance, and your army is your levies and your men-at-arms and any mercenaries or holy orders you may have recruited. So this just makes it much easier to manage them and to have more of them because you're paying minus 15% less for them. Also, plus 100% friendly territory levy reinforcement rate is the speed at which levies rejoin your army once you station your army in friendly territory after it's taken some damage. This gives you a plus 100% bonus to that, so you will regain your men a lot faster because your levies will reinforce your army faster than they ordinarily would. Organisation just gives you a flat increased control in county progress gain plus 20%. This is the skill that your marshal has, which he uses to increase control in the counties that you own or that your vassals own. And this just gives it a plus 20% progress gain, making it 20% faster, so you can do it more often. Hard Rule gives you another 20% dread gain, so anything you do that creates dread, whether it's executions or torturing, it'll give you a 20% more dread, so it really speeds up the amount of dread you can gain quickly. Siege progress against revolts plus 50%, so anyone who rebels against you, whether it be vassals or peasants, if you go to their land, to their territory, you will get a plus 50% bonus in siege progress against revolts, which is great for speedily taking their land. Faction military power threshold for vassals plus 20. This gives a plus 20 to the army threshold that a vassal has to reach when they create a faction against you, no matter what the faction's for. This just makes it harder for them to create and get to the troop count and maintain it against your troop count, making rebellions and uprisings much less likely. Next up is Soldiers of Lesser Fortune, minus 30% mercenary hire cost, quite self-explanatory. If you hire some mercenaries, it'll knock 30% off. Mercenaries tend to be quite expensive, so this is a really good perk, especially if you like hiring them, because it'll knock a lot of gold off any time you hire them. Then, Absolute Control enables absolute control for counties. Now, absolute control is a state. When a county reaches 100 control, it will say absolute control rather than 100 control, and absolute control gives you extra money and extra levies. The tree culminates in the Overseer perk, giving you plus 2 to marshal and plus 2 to stewardship. Very nice for increasing your stewardship and marshal at the same time, and also plus 50% to control growth. This allows you to quickly get control back in your provinces, especially with the modifiers from the tree above, and also the control you get from authority focus over here. Gallant is the final tree here. It focuses on knights and on chivalry, and on your own personal chivalry. Starts with Stalwart Leader, giving you a plus 4 prowess, so making your own fighting skill higher by plus 4, great if you're commanding an army. It also reduces the risk of yourself commanding an army. This allows you to go to battle more often because you are less likely to die whilst commanding the army, especially if your prowess is higher. You also get the ability to challenge any rivals you have to single combat, and if you win, they get stress and you lose stress, and vice versa. This is great if you have high prowess because not only can you maybe kill them, but you can maim them, you can demean them, and you can get stress loss. Going down the left-hand side, Courtship is the first one, giving a plus 30% to all romantic schemes. Romance and elope, both scheme and success chance. With a fellow ruler's wife, it makes it 30% more likely to be successful and also progress 30% faster, and that is the same with romancing, whether you're romancing your own wife or anyone within your kingdom or a foreign kingdom, 30% more likely to succeed and 30% faster progression, meaning it occurs faster. Then you have Promising Prospects, giving you a plus 50 to marriage acceptance. This is just flat, giving you plus 50 to anybody you might be asking to marry. So this helps you marry above your status into good alliances or good traits, and also gives you a plus 25 for close and extended family. So your brothers, your daughters, so your siblings, your children, your parents, your cousins, your uncles, etc. All of them will have plus 25 to marriage acceptance, so it's much easier to marry them off to people and much easier for them to marry into more powerful families. Then we have Loyalty and Respect, giving you a plus 50 to spouse opinion, so your spouse will like you more, just plus 50 opinion, so it's quite nice. And also plus 25% skills from spouse cancel a task. So obviously the spouse in your council can pick any of the stats and work with them as their counselor task to increase your own personal one, and this gives you a plus 25% increase to that. So if your wife gives you 4 extra stewardship, she'll actually give you 5, and the same for anybody else, any of the other ones. So this just gives you a nice bonus perk if your wife is well statted and you want to increase your own stats more. Then we have the right hand tree, starting with chivalric dominance, plus 75% knight effect. So knight effectiveness is a stat not explained overly well in the game, but it is quite a simple stat at core. Each of your knights will have an effectiveness based on your own personal knight effectiveness, and at 100% they will fight normally, at less than that they will fight weaker, and above that their prowess will increase. So at 200% effectiveness they will have double their prowess, making them a lot more effective in combat even if they have lower prowess. And this gives a plus 75% to their effectiveness, so this just gives you a big bonus to whatever their current effectiveness is, making them do more damage, last longer, and be more powerful. Then we have Never Back Down, minus 20% friendly fatal casualties, and plus 5 advantage. This gives your personal ruler's army minus 20% friendly fatal casualties, meaning that you will just take less casualties overall and be able to recuperate and get back into the fight faster. And also plus 5 to advantage, like in the strategist tree, just a nice bonus to have in combat. Plus 5 can give you more damage and help you beat out the enemies. Then we have Household Guard. This is a really nice perk, giving you plus 4 to your number of knights. No matter your size, you could be a count or you could be an emperor, and this gives you a flat plus 4 to the amount of knights you have. It's great if you want more knights, because knights are a really effective way of winning combats. Then, Peacemaker is the bottom trait here, plus 10 peace acceptance. In the game there are 3 types of peace, which is defeat, white peace, and victory. And your chances of winning and your chances of getting a white peace with somebody who's stronger than you are just increased by plus 10. So it's great for winning wars faster and for getting rid of more powerful enemies. Then, if you complete this tree, you get the Gallant perk. This perk gives you a plus 2 to martial, nice to have, plus 4 to prowess, making you a lot more powerful in any form of combat you do. 20% monthly prestige. So if you combine this with the stuff from the diplomacy tree, or any other prestige modifier, you'll be raking in a lot of prestige every month. Plus a plus 20 attraction opinion, with men up to the age of 65, women to 50, but still makes you more attractive, more likely to accept marriages, etc. So that's all for today when looking at the martial lifestyle tree. I hope this video was useful at least to some extent, and that you learned something. Thank you all for watching. Please like and or subscribe if you feel inclined to do so, and leave a comment if you'd like. Have a good day and take care, folks.